We've got clarity today on at least one undecided dirt late model driver and their national tour choice. Plus, we'll talk rock screens on sprint cars and a staple Australian sprint car team closing up shop. Let's go. It's Tuesday, March 18th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. A quick request from me off the top today. No matter where you're watching or listening to the show right now, please consider hitting that subscribe or follow button. Both are free to do no matter whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or a podcast platform like Spotify. That's a sign to the platforms that they should keep sharing these episodes to new folks, and it will make sure you stay up to date on all things dirt racing. My goal for the year is 50,000 on both YouTube and Facebook, and we are getting closer. We're sitting at over 41K on YouTube right now and nearing 32,000 on Facebook. Whether you subscribe or not, thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few minutes every day. All right, let's get into the show. It looks like we've got our first of the undecided dirt late model teams making their series choice. That happened here just a little bit ago. Coming up this weekend, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series is at Atomic and Brownstown, and the World of Outlaws Late Model Series is at Swainsboro in Georgia. So no more sitting on the fence. The 8 or so teams that have kind of been playing both sides will need to choose, especially since the weather looks like it might be good, might play nice in both locations. Some of the names we're waiting on decisions for include Tim McCready, Ricky Thornton Jr., Drake Troutman, Dalton Wilson, and Max Blair. And it's Blair who goes public first. Just about 30 minutes ago as I write this, Blair's team announced they are headed for Georgia to race with the Outlaws this coming weekend. This is in line with a lot of the chatter that was out there about Blair's plans for 2025, and he's in a better spot with the Outlaws at the moment, 5th and 42 points back versus 9th and 200 points back with Lucas. And depending on what RTJ decides, Blair could be elevated to 4th in the Outlaw standings. Obviously, we're still waiting on that decision as well. This will be a return to the Outlaws for Blair, who was last a full-timer with the series in 2022. The past 2 seasons, he went the other way and was a Lucas regular. Through 6 Outlaw races so far, Blair, he's been in every feature. He's got 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, but he's been solid with Lucas too. 6 top 10s in 9 races and all features made on that side. I don't know that it's realistic to call Blair a championship contender, but I do think the Outlaws could be more gettable for him this season. The top of that Lucas situation, it's just super tough with those kind of 4 or 5 guys. And I think beyond Bobby Pierce, Nick Hoffman, probably Ryan Gustin, there's more opportunity available on the Outlaw side. Looking ahead the rest of the week, we'll see if we actually get announcements from the other teams. I think some will go public with their plans, and others, they're just going to show up one place or the other. So we're going to have to stay tuned to see just who pulls into some of these racetracks. We've obviously talked this week about Aaron Reitzel's injury from the High Limit Show back over the weekend. He appeared to take a rock or a dirt clod to the face, and he suffered a broken nose. We are waiting to see what his status will be for tomorrow's High Limit Show at the Tulare Thunderbowl and for the upcoming stops at Kern County in Paris. Reitzel was one of a handful of drivers who were not running a rock screen at Las Vegas, and looking back through a bunch of old photos, it doesn't appear as though he's ever run one. Since his injury, as you could have probably guessed, the rock screen conversation has popped up online, and I've seen a bunch of folks weigh in. That includes Mike Linder, Landon Crawley, Brad Doty, Shane Stewart, Thomas Kennedy, Brian Smith, among others, have had comments about it. What's interesting to note about this specific situation is the car ran without one with Reitzel, but when Sanders got in it to fill in during the feature, it had one. If you look at the screen right now, this is Reitzel's car being towed off during the dash after he got out of it, where the red arrow is pointed. Very clearly no rock screen. And then this is from a video from Cali Dirt Videos that was posted on Facebook. Very clearly a rock screen in place there. So Sanders does run one regularly on his cars, and clearly they were able to get one on the RSR machine kind of quickly between the dash and the main event. And I'm assuming Sanders either requested that or brought one over from his own car just to rectify that situation. I heard as well there were other drivers who were hit with things, including Brian Brown. He posted to social that he had a rock knock his tear-offs completely off during the feature, and eventually he had to pull in because he couldn't see anymore. And there were images floating around of his car without a screen, and even Ricky Stenhouse Jr. replied to him telling him to run one, but he did have one on his car during that main event. You can pretty clearly see it in some other photos and some other video. Cali Dirt Videos also posted a reel yesterday that shows a rock hitting the screen of another car. It looks like it's actually maybe Corey Day. He didn't say in the reel who the driver was, but the driver's wearing blue K1 gloves that match another short video he posted of Day. And then when Day climbs out of the Myers 14 in Victory Lane on Saturday night, it sure looks on Flow Racing like that screen is wonky. In case you were curious, neither series, the Outlaws or High Limit, mandate any sort of protection in that area of the car. And in the past, when supposedly there were rules in place, teams did things to skirt those rules. My friend Paul Large, who's a great photographer, sent me a photo of Steve Kinser's car from the Williams Grove National Open in 1992. I'm showing that photo on the screen now. Apparently at that point, there was some sort of rock screen rule in place, and Kinser's team did have one on the car, but they just cut all of the middle bars out of it. That way they were still sort of classified as having one, but it did not impede Kinser's vision. And when we talk about rock screens and guys not running them, that's always the reason we hear why they don't. They say they can't see. I'll leave it up to you to decide if that's true or not true, whatever. I think the Kinser situation, though, it's a perfect example of drivers getting in their own way when it comes to safety and needing to be saved from themselves with some of these rules. Rock screens, they're not going to protect drivers from everything, as Brian Brown's night clearly illustrates, but they're better than having nothing at all. I'll be curious to see if the RSR 87 has one on it going forward once Reitzel is back racing again. Like a lot of sprint car topics, though, this becomes a talking point for a few days. Everyone argues about it, there's no consensus, and then you don't hear about it again until the next time someone high profile gets smoked by a rock or a dirt clod without running a rock screen. Down in Australia, we had some bummer news in recent days with sprint car and midget team Dyson Motorsport announcing their exit from the sport. The team fielded cars both in Australia and in the US, most recently had drivers like Carson and Cole Macedo and Spencer Baston drive for them. They always had those distinct looking cars, more recently with their gray paint schemes and the blue accents. In a release, team owners Sean and Felicity Dyson shared that their priorities have shifted as their young family grows. They said, quote, "While motorsport will always be in our blood, we recognize the need for a more family-friendly environment, one where our kids can be more involved as we move forward," unquote. While this does mean the end of their sprint car and midget teams, they did share that the team will continue in a different form, one that aligns with their vision of the future. Beyond owning their own cars, the Dysons have supported drivers through sponsorships over the years and have been with Carson Macedo since something like 2018. Complete parts and equipment appears on the JJR41, and it was on multiple cars in the past for Macedo as well, and that is the Dyson's business. They supply mining and earth-moving equipment and components to the Australian mining industry, with locations in New South Wales and Queensland. Looks like quite the operation. There was no mention in the release if that support would change, but it definitely sucks to see them go. They were one of the more iconic Australian sprint car teams, and they won their fair share of races. All right, that's the Daily Show for this Monday. Hope you guys have a great day out there. We will see you right back here tomorrow.